Good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Jennings, Director of Community Engagement with Community Action of Skagit County. Welcome to February 2023's Brunch and Learn with Community Action, our first one of the year. We started doing these Brunch and Learns last year. I hope you have a warm beverage or a snack to be a stand-in for a real brunch. We started doing these last year every first Wednesday of the month from 9 to 10 a.m. because we had kind of dropped it during the pandemic when we couldn't get together. In the before times, we would get together once a month, and our staff, our board members, and community partners were invited to a lunch and learn to learn more about a big community need, what we're doing as a community, or in this case, today, the state of Washington, what we're doing together to solve that problem. And then we talk about what's community action's role in it. And then we offer ways to get involved. If it's a service, we tell you how to make good referrals or what might not be such a good referral, or how you can get involved, your agency or volunteers or others. So we're very glad that you're all here today. And our topic is who could use an extra $1,200? Help your clients access new working families tax credit. And we're very glad to have with us leading today Sandi York, our Division Director from Community Action, Perla Gamboa, Outreach and Community Partnership Manager with the Washington Department of Revenue, and Paco Diaz Saldivar, Outreach Specialist with the Washington Department of Revenue. Can we have you three wave and say, hi, everyone, good morning. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about what community action is, as I think most folks here know us by the services we provide. We help stabilize lives, which often is helping folks pay their bills. We equip families to reach their goals with education, job skills, and financial well-being. And we work at changing the community on big picture issues like housing and other essential needs. So community action provides tools for families and individuals to take steps towards their goals. Folks call us or walk into one of our services centers in Mount Vernon, East County, soon in Anacortes as well, or they pick up the phone or email us when they need help making ends meet. And as you know, the biggest challenge for most families in Skagit County is the skyrocketing cost and unavailability of housing that they can afford. And of course, now we're seeing with inflation, food, utilities, and other expenses are also going up. So that's why we're talking today about community action's role in the state's new initiative, the Working Families Tax Credit, and how you can get involved. So on average, and this data is a couple of years old, but on average, the average American experiences poverty 3 times in their lifetime. Usually it's at birth. 60% of babies born in Skagit County are on Medicaid. So most people in Skagit County start out under the poverty level. The 3rd time is often near the end of life because most of us are not saving enough for retirement. And that 2nd time is what we call situational poverty, hitting the hard times, a death in the family, a divorce, medical debt, something that upsets the family unit and increases cost or decreases income in that household. So this extra funds that we can get in the door for our clients is really important. So Sandi, tell us a little bit about the community level data. What's the experience of poverty here in Skagit County that makes the Working Families Tax Credit necessary?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. It's, the state knows that working families have experienced a lot of economic strain for a long time. And that's something that second experience of poverty that a lot of families experience in the middle of their lives. And the economic fallout from COVID and the ensuing inflation, of course, put an even greater strain on families. Statewide, about 10% of people are below 100% of the poverty line, but about 32% are housing cost burdened, and that's paying more than 30% of their income on housing. As you mentioned, there's the skyrocketing costs. And then if you look just at renters, 45% of renters in the state of Washington are cost burdened. And so the Washington state knew that this meant it had to do something to get the money back into the pockets of working families to keep them stable and equipped to be able to provide what they needed for their families. So the Working Families Tax Credit was an attempt to do that. In Skagit County, our numbers are actually our numbers of people experiencing poverty and those who are housing cost burdened are a little bit higher than the statewide average. And we estimate that of our community action clients, I estimate that about 60 to 70% of our current clientele at Community Action would qualify for this tax credit, which is one of the reasons that I really want to make sure to get the word out to staff who can tell their clients, as well as others who come through our doors, as well as partners who are working with a low to moderate income population. But it's not just about our clients either. This tax credit is really aimed at any low to middle income families, which is a large percentage of our county. And so there are tens of thousands of people in our county that may be eligible for this credit.
Well, it's exciting to have this new resource around, but what is the Working Families Tax Credit? How is it different from the federal Earned Income Tax Credit?
Well, I'll provide a short answer, and then Perla and Paco may want to jump in to provide some more background on that. But essentially, the Earned Income Tax Credit is the federal tax credit that's been around for many years. The Working Families Tax Credit is Washington State's version, and it was modeled after the Earned Income Tax Credit, but it's more inclusive of some families who aren't eligible for the EITC in order to achieve more equity in its service. So I'll leave it at that and see if Perla and Paco want to jump in to add anything about the difference between the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Working Families Tax Credit.
Thanks, Sandy and Liz, and morning, everyone. Yes, one big difference between the federal EITC and our Washington state tax credit is that individuals or families that file their taxes using their ITINs, right? That number that the IRS provides to people that do not qualify for Social Security number. In the state of Washington, people that file taxes with ITINs are eligible for their refund. So that is a huge difference. And when people are filing their federal taxes, they can attach at the same time, if they qualify, the state refund. For those that qualify for both, they will get 2 deposits in the bank account or 2 checks, one back from the IRS and one back from Department of Revenue, the state agency that is administering the program. If they only qualify for the state, they can still get their refund, even if they won't get the refund from federal government.
Thank you so much. You mentioned the ITIN, the ITIN. Can you again explain what that is and why it's so important?
Sure. Again, I'm happy to jump in first and then let Perla or Paco jump in with more additional information. So the ITIN is the Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. Essentially, it's a tax processing number for people who are not able to get a Social Security number. What's really important here is ITINs are issued regardless of immigration status. So that's really important for a lot of our clientele who are working here, but may not have a Social Security number or the immigration status that would allow them to get one. So they are eligible to apply for the Working Families Tax Credit. So Perla, Paco, do you want to add anything to that?
One question that I get all the time is from community members. They may ask, I still don't have my ITIN. I requested it from the IRS, but as we know, it's taking several weeks to process. And so they always ask, if I don't have my ITIN, can I still apply for Working Families? And the answer is yes. Our application, and we can walk you through that, has at the top, are you applying with a Social Security number or an ITIN? You can check Social Security ITIN, and there's also a way to check if you're saying, I have requested my ITIN and still waiting for it. You can check that and you can still submit your application. Now, just wanted to make sure that I'm very clear on this, that we will receive the application at the Department of Revenue, even if the ITIN, we don't have a number because they check that option that they're waiting for their ITIN. We will receive the application, but we will not process it. The person will not receive a refund until we are able to receive that number, until they get their ITIN number from the IRS. However, because that may take a lot of time, we will still be able to accept the application and consider it as submitted on time.
And when Perla mentions, hi everyone, and we have until December 31st to receive that information, and they will need the ITIN for the applicants and also for the children. This is important too.
So we've got some time, but we're doing this early in the year because we want to make sure that everyone is thinking about it when they're getting their federal taxes together. Sandi, I think you've got a short presentation to tell us a little bit more about eligibility and the basics of the program.
Sure. Yep. I'll bring that up in a second. One thing I would love to follow up on to what Paco said is that, yes, so what's exciting is today is the first day that people can apply for it, February 1st, which is great. And it's not something that has to be applied for before April 15th, like the federal and state taxes. So you can apply, as Paco said, all the way through December 31st. So we're beginning the push to get the information out. But if somebody finds out about it in August, that's fine, they can still apply for it. So that's a great piece of news. So I'm just going to share a couple slides that talk a little bit more about eligibility and income thresholds, and then we'll move on. So let me share my screen. All right, let me put this in slide mode. Okay. All right, so as we mentioned, this is a new tax credit for Washington workers. And here are essentially the 4 basic eligibility requirements. You need to have lived in Washington state for over half the year in 2022. That's 183 days minimum. And that is, I'm going to add to this, only the applicant. So the applicant needs to have lived in Washington state for 183 days. If there's dependents, they don't necessarily need to have been there for 183 days. You have to have filed a tax return with a social security number or an ITIN for 2022. And that you need to be between the ages of 25 and 65 or have qualifying children. So for example, if you're over 65, but you are the primary caregiver for grandchildren who qualify for the ITIN, then you may be eligible for the Washington, or for the Working Families Tax Credit. And the last part is you have low to moderate income. And then this criterion is based on the same levels as the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is right here. And one of the interesting things about this threshold is that it's actually it's tiered. So it's not that these payouts are only this amount. There are tiered amounts in between, and there's some complicated math that the program does behind the scenes to figure out what the exact payout is. But these are the maximum payouts based on the income and the number of children. I'll go ahead and leave it there in terms of eligibility. Paco or Perla, do you have anything that you'd want to add related to eligibility?
When we promote the program, we're always making sure that people understand that although the name of the program is Working Families, it is also open to people that file their taxes as single individuals and have now not children to claim. Super important also to mention that we, as we mentioned, we are accepting applications from today until December 31st. And this is not only going to be just the first year, that's how we're going to do it every year from now on. And so I always make that recommendation because people may, when you talk to your networks, right? People say, oh, why am I going to do through all the trouble? It's not a large amount of money, as Sandi mentioned. And why will I want to do that? And the reason for that is, first of all, of course, those amounts, those max amounts that we can get will increase with a cost of living in future years, but also it's a program that is here to stay. 2023 is the first year, but people can claim this new tax credit for the state every year after this, after they, when they claim they do their taxes. And so I get that question all the time. Why will I do that? This is for just a one-time thing, and it's not. It's every year beginning this one.
Yep. The other thing I would add to that too is it's not, and we've had this question before, is it's not counted as income. So there's certain benefits that people get that end up being counted as income. This is not counted as income. It is a refund for taxes that people have already paid. And another point I wanted to bring up in terms of eligibility is I showed you the chart for the maximum income, but there's a question of what is the minimum income? And actually the minimum income is $1 earned. So if you have $1 of earned income, that means you're eligible. You may be eligible to apply if you meet the other criteria as well.
That's crazy. I only have to earn $1 to qualify as long as I don't earn the maximum amount for a single or family. That's awesome. So I would like to just take a little commercial break here and show off two great resources. Our friends at the Department of Revenue have their own great website, which is workingfamiliescredit.wa.gov. That link is in the chat box as well. And after this workshop, we will be sending out, Isabella, thank you very much. We'll send out notes and links about this program. So this is the state's website, and it has portals for individuals and families to check out if they apply themselves. If any of us want to check out our own family's eligibility, there is a portal for tax preparers, because of course there's a learning curve for accountants and others who help with taxes. And then for many of us, we might find the toolkit at the Community Partners portal useful if we think that we might be helping the people we serve with these applications in schools, in social service organizations, government agencies, and others. I also want to show you Community Action of Skagit County. We like to train our own staff and partners on how to find these resources. If you go to our main website at communityactionskagit.org and you go to this tab saying, I'm looking for, and you scroll down and you see the little speech bubble with a $sign in it. And it says tax help and tax credits. And this goes to the Financial Wellbeing and Tax Help website. Thank you very much, Isabella Ordonez, for just getting this live in time for this presentation today. It goes over eligibility, the number of qualifying children in a single or married household, and the maximum credit amount. And you'll see that that does range from $300 to $1,200, depending on how many people are in the household. There's a button to click to apply. For questions, how to contact the Department of Revenue. There is a call to action here, which Sandi's going to tell us about more later. We're looking for volunteers who want to help in English and Spanish to help people fill out those applications. And then Sandi's also keeping us up to date on free tax help centers throughout the county. So those are some resources. And again, they're linked from the chat. So Sandi, how do people apply for the tax credit? Do they apply at the same time that they file their taxes?
Yes and no. So if someone uses, there's basically 3 different ways to apply, and I'll talk about that in a second. if someone uses a tax preparation agency that has integrated the Working Families Tax Credit into its system, like I believe H&R Block or TurboTax, then the Washington Families Tax Credit application can be done at the same time as the federal and state filing. However, if someone has already filed their taxes, like let's say they've already done it, they're on top of things at this point, or they're filing on paper, then the Working Families Tax Credit application is a separate process, and that can be done either online or on paper. So Liz, can you bring back up the Department of Revenue website, the Working Families Tax Credit website?
I was gonna say, Sandy, can I share?
Yep. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Perla, you can share.
I'll go ahead and share, because there are some features that we just implemented today that we would like to share with you.
Wonderful. Okay, so if you click on apply, it will show you the 3 different ways you can apply. So you've got the online for free, which gets you into the MyDOR portal. There's the e-file with one of the tax preparer companies that has already integrated this. And then you can do it on paper by mail for free as well. So those are the 3 different options. And Perla, I'll let you take it away to show us some of the new information that's on here now.
Thank you, Sandy. I really appreciate it, because as you see here on our page, we added this banner today because we open applications. And I wanted to share with you great news, because even if we only started receiving applications today, actually by yesterday, because of these 3 different methods that we have to apply, right? We can do it through our portal, Department of Revenue, or people can apply with a tax preparer or on paper, because the tax preparation companies had already been helping people even before our application started, or before our program started. As of yesterday, we had already received 7,000 applications for working families from these tax preparers. So people went as soon as it's available, right? Because we all need our money back. We go and file federal taxes. They went to work with one of the tax preparers that are available, and they also completed the Working Families Tax Credit and submitted it. So even before the program started, 7,000 applications throughout the state. We're really happy, because this will not happen if it weren't for the community action in all the state, all these groups, all the community nonprofits that we've been working with to spread the word. And so it's super exciting that we are getting these applications. And so just briefly, what we have here is that you could help people apply online through our website. They will need to open an account with MyDOR, and they will also need their SO account. It's the Secure Access Washington. Many families that are already working with the SHS, for example, already have a SO account to receive other benefits that will work. So if you go there, then they will ask you to click with create that, use your SO account and log into MyDOR. So that is one option. The other option, through tax preparation companies, like Sandi mentioned, we have all the big ones, right? HR Block and TurboTax and all those. But we are also asking people whether they do it by themselves or with a tax professional. We also are sending people to those free or low cost. And these are the community partners that we have throughout the state, all the organizations that received our grants to help out people, and also our VITA centers and AARP centers, because we know that some of the tax preparers do charge for the applications, right? And then this application online is available in English and Spanish. The third method, applying on paper, it's available in all of these languages. So we're very excited that we are opening this up to more community members. So just that about the application. We have a couple more minutes. Are you going to talk about, Sandi, about some of the resources? Maybe I'll just show them here.
I wasn't going to go in there, but it would be great if you did. Yeah.
We've
So-
got time.
Okay, all this is new. That's what I'm so excited, because some of you may have been visiting the page, but we have a lot of new information as of today. And in our resources, for example, is what I was mentioning, right? Helping your community, ways to apply and download your application in all of those languages, all the events that we're doing. Our team, and Paco is our outreach specialist for the area, for Skagit. We will be doing application drives in partnership with, and so these are opportunities for people that they don't have to go to a tax preparer and pay to have their application done, but because we can help for free. Some of our free resources, some of our flyers. I believe we have our general flyer in 20 different languages as of now. So please use these resources. Our educational videos are available in English and Spanish, and they are super short that any of us can share on social media, 1 to 3 minutes each video, and they explain how to apply, what you need to bring to your application, the residency requirement Sandi was mentioning, to have lived in the state for at least 6 months the year before. Lots of different features. And what I wanted to mention here, because I think this is important for this group, is that this is new, a form that people can use to request information in a language that we don't have, or any alternative format. This is brand new. So please use this, spread out the information. We want people to start using our features. There is also the toolkit that was mentioned here, right? And a lot of copy and paste materials that people can use, like the infographics and the flyers and posters. And we have information about our advisory committee. And the last thing, let's say, I don't think that we have it here, but we're also working on a way that people can submit information if they think that they have been discriminated against. And so that is important, because these communities that we serve, we want to make sure that we're very clear on everybody needs to have access to this, whether it's in a language that they speak, or an alternative format for people that may have a disability, for people that may be going through a situation of homelessness. There's also options there as to what type of information we will accept, so that they can complete the application. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. Please check our website and send us any questions.
Sure.
Perla, we do have a question. Can you go over where and how to request another language again, and just maybe
Yes.
go into that little portal and tell us more about it, and which languages? For example, our WIC program has clients with Russian, Ukrainian, Mixtec, Tricky. I know many of our partners do as well. So how do we find out more there?
So a couple of things. Here, for example, this is the one that you can request any of our materials, right? So you just need to say what type of information, and if you have a link that helps, right? Do you want information about, for example, protecting your information? That's exactly what you will need. If you have a file, you can tell us what you need. For example, it could be the application on paper. We have it available in 13 languages. But what if there is a language that you need to apply, not the flyer? The flyer is in 20 languages, but the application itself, you need a paper application in a language that we don't have. Then you can request it here. You will tell us what language, any description that you can find, any additional information, and your contact name. That's all we're asking, and then submit, and we will get back to you saying, providing that information. Maybe you also want an interpreter, right? Maybe not necessarily a document, but you want somebody to assist you submitting the application. So this one is very general for any and all forms of requests. Could be you want the video with captions, for example, right? It doesn't have to be only the language. So that's about this one. But if you also want, let's say, our flyer, here in the flyer, we also have it, as I mentioned, several different languages. And there is a way also to order free copies, because if you want to help us promote the program, we don't want for you to use your resources, maybe use your printer and that. So this is another way that you can just let us know what languages from our list that we have, or other language that we don't have, the number of flyers, and we will mail this to you. Right now, we don't have this for the applications on paper, but if you want to have applications on paper in any of the languages that we have, you can send me an email and we will mail them to you so that you don't have to print your own if you want several applications to have on hand for people that may reach out to you.
Thank you so much. And if you will stop sharing screen, I'm going to show our website and a couple of flyers, and then I've got a question for Sandi. So speaking of flyers, again, are you seeing the website?
Yes.
Okay. I was hoping I wasn't showing my notes on the other screen. So again, I'm looking for tax help and tax credits, comes to community actions, financial well-being, and tax help page, information about the working families tax credit. And then down here, it says, spread the word to friends, families, and colleagues about tax help opportunities. And we have these flyers in English and Spanish. So this is in partnership with our friends at AARP Foundation and Goodwill. We have the list of tax prep sites on the website, but this is a flyer if you'd like to have it in English or in Spanish at your front desks, or to hand out to clients that you're working with who maybe are in case management or schools. Send it home with all of the parents that you can, that type of thing. So Sandi, you and Perla were talking about some access tools in other languages. You also mentioned that one of the goals of this program is equity. How does the Working Families Tax Credit aim to address equity?
I think that's a really important question. We know, as I mentioned before, that the credit is intended to stimulate economic activity, right? This is not trickle down. This is saying, let's put some money back into the pockets of the families who need to spend it. Or who need it. It's aiming to advance racial equity, as well as trying to promote economic stability and well-being for any and all working families in Washington. One of the reasons that we're trying to do this big outreach right now is that they found that when it came to the federal earned income tax credit, when they did some research, they found out that something like 22 or 23% of people who were eligible for it didn't apply for it. And those people were generally people of color, people in rural communities, and those who had the lowest incomes and the poorest access to resources. So the goal with the Working Families Tax Credit that the Washington Department of Revenue has stated is that they want to be able to get this information out to those people who otherwise might not be accessing this credit. And so there's this really big push, as you saw from what Perla was showing you, to make sure that it's in other languages, to make sure that we're just getting information out to people who might be able to access it in ways that they can access it more easily. And so it's not just online, it is also on paper. It's also available through tax repair websites, both paid and unpaid. I think that's a really important point to show that there's a real push to make sure that it's accessible to everybody who may be eligible.
Thank you. And I know that we probably have quite a few questions, but just to kind of move towards wrapping up, Sandi, what is Community Action's role in this? And why are we taking this on? Why are we doing this work?
Sure. Yeah, Community Action's role. Well, I would first say I want to recognize the partnerships. And this, I think, came out a lot in what Perla was saying, that this is not just one agency doing work. This is the Washington Department of Revenue doing a lot of work to make sure that there is information and flyers and resources, and that so that we can get the word out about it. It's the Department of Commerce providing grants to a lot of agencies around the state to do outreach efforts to make sure we get the word out. And we're all meeting monthly to connect and make sure that we can learn from each other's process. So this is a huge community effort to get the word out about this and get people connected with this tax credit. Community Action's role specifically is to get the word out about the Working Families Tax Credit in Skagit County. This is the first year it's been in existence. So we want to make sure that everybody knows about it, including tax preparers, so they can help people access it. And then other partners who are working with people who may be eligible as well. To the extent possible, we would like to be able to train service providers to help with application assistance, and I'll go over that in just a second. So here's what we can do. Community Action can give out information to people about the tax credit, show them the eligibility requirements, direct them to where they can find information to apply. And then staff or volunteers who are able and have the time may be able to help a client with the paper or online application. We can also direct them to locations to get free help with their tax preparation. What we can't do is help people with their federal and state tax filing. That's something that needs to be done by a tax preparer. But we can help them access this information and possibly even help with the application process itself. So that's our role in it. I do want to share my last slide about how people can help. Let me bring that up just a second. There's a couple different options of how people might be able to help. One is to sign up for a training I'm doing next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. And we can put this link in the chat too. Let me see if I can do that.
And Sandi, anybody who registered for this session, we will send this information out to them as a follow-up.
Yes, that's correct. And yes, so this will be in that email. You can contact me to provide a short training for any of your direct service staff so they can help customers with either information or application assistance. You could volunteer, so essentially help people do the application for the Working Families Tax Credit, either on paper or online. We could have, if somebody could come in weekly to be here to help, that'd be great. Otherwise, you could schedule a couple days. We're hoping to be able to schedule a big outreach event in March to be able to do essentially an application drive. And we'd love to have volunteers to be able to help with that. You could always contact me at the email below, and that'll be in the follow-up email that comes out. Another way that you can help is to spread the word. Please tell friends and family about the Working Families Tax Credit. You can ask me for flyers or download them from, actually I said our website, really going straight to the Department of Revenue's website. Working Families Tax Credit is the best way to get a broad range of resources that you can pass out to friends, family, clients, anybody you come in contact with. Or just tell me who I should get the word out to. Outreach is not my forte, so being able to get information about who I need to be getting information out to would be really, really helpful. So those are a couple ways that you can help.
And Sandi, I'm going to read you a couple of questions that came in from the chat, but just to clarify, when you were offering to do a short presentation or training for other staff, that's not just community action programs, right? This could be a school district or an individual school. It could be another social service provider. It could be a business who perhaps wants to know how to help their own employees.
Absolutely.
Doing this. So one of the questions was, will your training on 2.8 be recorded? And the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
I'm going to ask Josh or Isabella to put in the chat the link to the community action YouTube channel where these Brunch and Learns are and where Sandi's training will be. We will also send that link from the training out to everyone that did sign up for this Brunch and Learn as well. Really good question from Sierra G. Just to clarify, is this for individuals and families with earned income from working and not benefits? And I heard you say it is from earned income, but it could be as little as $1. Maybe this is a question for our friends from the Department of Revenue. How does somebody document that they only earned $1 last year because it likely wasn't taxed?
Right. And so again, we are not going to be collecting any type of information because one of the requirements to file the state tax return is to show that 1040, right, the federal, and that's where they will collect that information and make sure that they documented that they have, they did make some income, at least $1 from the prior year. So we will get that information for our form. One thing that people always ask is, how is this a refund from the state if we don't file federal taxes in the state, right? And the reason for that, and that the program can happen this year, is that we are going to get this refund based on our sales taxes that we pay every time that we purchase something in the state of Washington. So this is where our money is coming back to people that need it.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Isabella for putting the Community Action Brunch and Learn YouTube playlist. If anybody would like to share this recording with colleagues. So I think at this point, Sandi, I'm going to ask you if there's anything else to wrap up, and otherwise, folks, you can just take yourselves off mute or raise your Zoom hand or put questions in the chat. Anything else that you'd like to say before we go to Q&A, Sandi?
Well, the only thing I wanted to say really is that this is, it's one of Community Action's strategic priorities to help low to moderate income families get access to more income, assets, benefits, and ability to pay bills. And so this is part and parcel of that. So spreading the word about the Working Families Tax Credit is very much in line with that priority. It's also a major step we're taking to bolster the work we're doing to try to improve the financial well-being of our clients and eventually many others in the community. So I think that's an important point to make, that this is embedded in our strategic plan. I'm happy to answer any questions. For myself, or Perla and Paco may be able to get into more detail too.
Great. I will go to Christina after another question in the chat. This year, folks can apply until the end of the year. Going forward, will it be a part of their tax prep?
Not exactly sure if I understand the question, but yes, this year they can apply until December 31st, and every consecutive year we have the full year to apply. So the easiest will be to apply at the same time they do the federal tax, right? Around April, but that's not a requirement. They can apply later every year. Does that answer the question?
It perfectly does. Thank you. Christina.
Thanks, Liz. So just a couple of questions. Will this tax credit for a family that's receiving TANF benefits, will this be counted as income, as well as for maybe a person that's on like Social Security or something? Will this be counted as income that they need to report? And then another question is, I was just looking over the paper copy and where it has a tax preparer, does the tax preparer have to go through one of the clinics to be able to fill out the application? And then also there's the H for the attachments. Will the preparer, because I guess that paper copy, right, could get a little spendy, basically. If I was preparing this for my families here and where I am, that paper cost could get out of hand, pretty much.
On the first question, and Perla and Paco can correct me if I misunderstand this, but at the state level, this the refund from this tax credit will not be counted as income. However, there are some state agencies that may have their own interpretations. Am I getting that correct, Perla?
Yeah, so it's not counted as income. We're working with DSHS, for example, for all those other benefits. It will not affect other benefits that they're receiving. And there was a question in the chat also, it's not considered public charge.
Mm-hmm. And then the other question, I believe that tax preparers do not need to go through a specific training to be able to fill out the form. And it's the more complicated part is the earned income tax credit piece that's part of the federal return. The working families tax credit is a much simpler process once the federal return and the EITC have been applied for.
Keith from Head Start asks, will the tax help locations in Skagit have this information on hand to assist families with this benefit?
I'm in the process of talking with them to make sure that they have this information that they need. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, yes.
And the locations are on the Community Action website. And again, there are flyers in English and Spanish if anyone would like to share those. Any other questions? Who's excited to get more cash in the pockets of our families that we work with? No more burning questions? Well, we do have, what is that, 13 minutes left. So would our friends from the Department of Revenue or Sandi, is there any other pearls of wisdom that you would like to give us? Because we do have time today and you might spur some additional questions.
So just very quickly, one thing that I wanted to share here in our website and Get Help, we have the free tax resources. This is so important because although we have the information about tax preparers, and you may, of course, let people know about that, some of them we've heard charge even $70 to do to help people file their taxes, right? And that is a lot for the refund that you will have to pay to a tax preparer. So if you can use any of these, Get Help, free tax resources, we do have information about the free resources that we have in our area. And so, as I mentioned, some of the AARP information and also the VITA sites, not only for that area, but if you have colleagues in other areas outside of Skagit, we have this information here. We're also working with the 211 services so that they can provide information, because we know that a lot of people consult them directly. And if they need any information about the program. And in the chat, somebody also asked to show again where to get the information to get additional languages or other services. So it's resources and here, other languages or other formats.
Perla,
Oh,
will you put that link in the chat, please? And then we did have a question. If you and Paco could please share your contact information in the chat as well.
Sure, we will.
Thank you.
So the website it's quite easy to navigate, but I added the resources link, direct link, and something that I always forget to mention, and I shouldn't, because our website, the full website, is available in English and Spanish. And this is important for the communities that you serve. So we don't want people to have to go to Google, translators to get the information. From here, you can access the Spanish website, and it's been updated with all the information that we have. And if you are in the English website, and let's say you are looking at this page, if you go to Spanish, Español, you go to the same page. So it doesn't take you back to the home page, if that makes sense, right? We have the ability to do the toggle back and from the same page where you're already navigating in English and Spanish. That's really helpful for people. And I know that is frustrating when they send you back to the home page in another language and you have to start over. So we're making sure that that's not the case here. And so all of the information that we provided today is there with in Spanish also.
I'd also like to draw attention to the fact that in both English and Spanish, at the very top on the menu, there's the the ask for help. So obtenga ayuda, or I think, what is it in English? Get help, something like that. There's a lot of good information on there. So if somebody has a question that they're not sure about, there's some really good information there. There's even a list of frequently asked questions to go through as well. And I have found this site really, really helpful to work through.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first point of that volunteers or applicants can go to see if they can get their question answered. And the other thing that I learned in the training yesterday or the day before was that there's, you can apply, and that if something's wrong on your application, there's no penalty if you get something wrong. Like if you apply and they're like, oh, you're not eligible, it's not like you're going to get a slap on the wrist. It's like, oh no, this is the reason that you don't qualify, and that's it. So that's important to know too. There isn't a risk. The other thing that I learned in a training recently too, that I think is important for the equity piece, is that you don't need an address to be able to apply for this either. And this is something that I think is really important for a lot of the clients I know that we serve at Community Action, that as long as there is somebody who, if Washington residence verification needs to be done, that there's maybe a point of contact that might be able to provide a letter verifying that that person resides in Washington, even if there isn't an address that they can put down. And that's, I think, a really important way for people to access this as well.
Great. And I'm showing, just as you were saying, Sandy, our frequently asked questions in English and Spanish. There's that question that somebody asked in the chat about being a public charge, about it will affect other benefits. And we have the answer there. And specific scenarios, right? What if I'm separated and I live in the state, but my partner doesn't, and my child, do they need to live with me or to qualify? So those questions are there. If it is a child that lives out of state, for example, questions, as I mentioned, this is not a one-time refund, it's every year. Lots of other questions that we have there, and we have grouped them into people that need help with IT, maybe, or how to apply. There's something also about the eligibility and the income. We always get this question, right? If it is adjusted gross income, what is considered income? And a person to apply, they don't need to be working right now, right? They just need to have made some income the year prior. So that's also something that we want to make sure that we let everybody know.
We did
Please,
get
Visita.
2 questions in the chat. Excuse me for interrupting.
No? Yeah.
So if someone needs a letter to verify their residency in the state because they don't have a home address, does the letter need to be notarized?
Nope. We only have, like, if I'm in this situation of not having a home right now, and I'm working with a shelter or living in a shelter, for example, very simple letter from that organization saying that, yes, I live in the area. That's all we need.
Great. And another question from Lorena, would this tax benefit apply to workers who come to work in Washington under an H-2A visa? And that's with or without children, right?
As long as they have an ITIN or have applied for an ITIN. Yeah.
Great.
Also, I would was going to say on my training next Thursday, I'm going to go into more detail on some of these eligibility questions too. So I'll spend some more time on that then.
And Sandi, I think that's Wednesday, the 8th.
Wednesday, the 8th at 2 o'clock, 2
2
to
to
3:30. And I tried to do that to allow for questions at the end.
So I'm going to just repeat some of the takeaways that we've got here. So one takeaway is tell everybody you know who might qualify, friends, family, clients, help us get the word out. And you saw some great resources on the state's website for that. And then you can contact Sandi for more local resources as well, or go to the Community Action website. Another opportunity is to learn more. Again, on Wednesday, February 8th, 2 to 3:30, Sandi's going to actually be doing more of a workshop on to go deep into how to help people apply for this benefit. I want to mention also, we haven't mentioned this yet, that Community Action sponsors the Skagit Latinx Advisory Committee, which has monthly meetings. And the next meeting is next Thursday, the 9th, from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And Isabella will include all of these in a follow-up email if you can't take notes fast enough. And the LAC last month talked about food insecurity. And this month, we're going to start with the same theme as we did today, which is how can we help folks pay their bills? We're going to start with food resources to kind of close out that conversation from last month about available food resources to help people's income go further. But then we're going to hear about a number of other resources, including Perla is going to be with us to talk about the Working Families Tax Credit. That meeting is bilingual in English-Spanish. And we're going to assess the interest, and we think it will be high, to do a follow-up workshop in Spanish. So we don't have that scheduled yet, but we're hoping there will be interest, and our friends at the Department of Revenue would be happy to help us with that. And then lastly, I wouldn't be doing my community engagement job if I didn't say, we need volunteers. You can make a difference in a family's life. Help them get a couple $100 or up to $1,200 back in their family to be able to use for immediate needs, or even to for that family to save for the future. So again, I'll ask Isabella to put the Volunteer Center email address on there. It's on the Community Action tax preparation webpage, and we'll get that information out via email. So any last questions? We've got about 2 minutes.
Gracias por invitarnos. Thank you very much.
And thank you for being here. We appreciate your being here and providing so much good information to everybody. Thank you.
Thanks to everybody for participating today, and we'll see you next month. March topic, Brunch and Learn with Community Action, will be on public policy advocacy. What the heck is it? What does Community Action do with our partners locally? And what are we doing in the state legislature this year? How can you get involved? Come back next month and we'll let you know. See you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Gracias.